Marie, can you tell us a bit about how your family came to be in the daffodil business?
My grandmother was Mary Spear, and she was born in Cargreen, and her father was a merchant on the quay at Cargreen. She married my grandfather, who was South African, who came over to England and got a job with the Prince of Wales running a poultry farm. They married and lived at Marsh Farm, and to make a living other than the poultry, they grew fruit and vegetables and daffodils. When my grandfather died, my father and Gran carried on the farm. When I came along in 1948, they grew polyanthus, anemones, violets. They grew a lot of cauliflowers. Dad took an interest in the breeding of daffodils and went into partnership with his brother Peter. And over the years they bred 92 different varieties of daffodils. They did all the RHS shows and the local shows. When they started off, they had the old varieties like Sir Watkin, White Lady, Brilliancy, Bath's Flame, Helios, Golden Harvest, those sort of varieties. And then Dad became really interested in what you could do if you cross-pollinated. And I remember when I was a child, Dad bought a very expensive bulb, and I'm talking about £100, which was like £1 million back then, and he proceeded to cut it up into umpteen pieces and put in bags in the airing cupboard, and my mother telling him off for spending so much money and wasting it. But he actually grew, each little nodule grew into a bulb, and actually, you know, made quite a bit of money for him. And he became really interested in cross-pollinating things and raising things, you know, which gave rise to all the ones that are on sale now. Although a lot that he bred, we'd have a job to find now, I think. It's like breeding cattle, you've got to breed the perfect one. So they needed to breed the perfect one and keep going. They still picked the flowers when I was a child, but as time went on, it went more to the bulbs. I suppose from the 1980s onwards, they picked the flowers so that the bulbs would grow better, because then the bulb wasn't supporting just the flower. So that was the reason they actually picked the flowers. Picking time, kids wanting pocket money would come, students from the village. It was always people from the parish that would come and help Dad either pick the flowers or do the bulbs up to be sent away, and then they were all checked by the Ministry of Agriculture that was then passed for selling abroad. My sister and I were expected to pick alongside everybody else. Didn't matter whether it was snowing, hailing, raining, blowing, we had to do it. The same as the bulbs, like I'd come home from school and later work, and you were expected to work in the barns until bedtime, packing up the bulbs. And my grandmother, she bunched flowers right up until late 90s, didn't she?
Yes.
That she would sit at the packing thing and bunch the flowers. The flowers were taken to Saltash railway station in my time and put on a train to Covent Garden. The bulbs would be packed up, put in boxes, and the postman would collect them. Or else for the bigger boxes for abroad, then they would be taken to the post office. But you see, when they used to sell them in buds, it was so much easier because you bunched them in the field.
I see.
When you picked them open, you had to bring them back to the packing shed and then bunch them in lines. But there was nothing like seeing a box full of open daffodils, and they last just as long, if not longer, than the buds did. You'll find an awful lot of the old varieties in most churchyards in Cornwall. Landolph has a fair number because Dad chucked them on hedges, but he also gave a lot to a lot of the local churches, gave a lot to Cotehill. Dad was quite generous, too generous for his own good sometimes. That he wasn't a super businessman really, but everybody loved him. He was always good at helping other people to show their products better, because some of the shows they just plonk them in the vase and he'd teach them how to exhibit them. Like I show daffodils and I go around the shows and everybody says, oh, we remember Dan, he was such a nice chap. And I hope I'm carrying on in the same way to help other people, you know, do a good job at showing so that we're all on an equal footing. We grew about 20 acres of daffodils, like that's what, in the end, that's what was cultivated, wasn't it?
Why did you have a bit of cereal?
Yeah. We were never allowed to pick the native daffodils, which we always called Lent lilies, from the hedges, because we used to keep geese, and for how many you picked was how many goslings you would get. So we were never allowed to pick any, but when we did, that's usually the number of goslings we used to get. So you could laugh, you could believe it or not, but that's what we were told as kids.